Joining me on the line as he does every Friday on the show, he is from Cinemablend.com. He is a truly fabulous human being. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Reyes is on the line. Hey, Mike, what's going on?
Oh, not much, B-sox. How are you?
You better live up to that introduction, being a fabulous human being.
Are you really going to start with that? You have your hand on the button, I'm assuming. You want the Jurassic World rant again.
Yeah. No.
You want it again so bad, and you might get it today.
No,
we'll see, because there is something.
No,
we'll see. All I'm saying is there's something we're going to talk about today that may get my ire up a little.
The Jurassic Park thing was one of those magical moments that doesn't happen very often. You can't just recreate something like that. I would never try to. So, anyways, Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. Let's start with Hitman Bodyguard 247, whatever the hell it's called. What's going on here?
Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard?
There it is. Sounds perfect.
Yeah. All right. So for those of you who have seen Hitman's Bodyguard, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard picks up a couple years after where Michael Bryce, AAA executive protection agent, played by Ryan Reynolds, still is unlicensed and is in therapy because of all the stuff he went through with Darius Kincaid, played by Samuel L. Jackson. So now he has a new problem because apparently Darius has been kidnapped by the mob, and his wife Sonia, played by Salma Hayek, has now brought Michael out of he's on a sabbatical where he's on vacation. He's ready to read The Secret, really get in touch with himself. He yanks him out of that, and it's like, no, you have to come with me and help save my husband, even though he does not want to touch a gun. He's not supposed to be on any sort of action-packed adventure where he gets drugged, stabbed, beaten, run over. And all of those things happen to him. And it's funny because I talked to the director, Patrick Hughes, about the film, and he said, I came into this movie, I had a list of things I wanted to do to Ryan Reynolds. And then he brushed out this practically flawless Ryan Reynolds impression because he's like, I sent him a text with all this, and then he was like, oh, that's wonderful. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's cool. So, no, I was just going to ask. So that's kind of the story. Is it very good?
I was just about to say, yes, it is. I would say it is actually an improvement over Hitman's Bodyguard because while I enjoyed Hitman's Bodyguard, it is very much more of an action movie with some comedy notes thrown in there. Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard goes harder on the comedy to the point where it borders on like a really good spoof movie.
Okay.
That could probably be spoofing the first one. And it's just very energetic, so much damn fun. As a James Bond fan, I couldn't help but find some influences in there from, classic adventures, and it is a ride. The sort of thing that you want to go see in a movie theater. I got to see it in an IMAX, and it was nice, loud, exciting.
I remember liking the Hitman's Bodyguard. I don't remember much about it. Like, I don't want to say it was forgettable, but to me, it was kind of forgettable. I liked it. I just don't remember anything about it.
Well, yeah, they're both very simple films in terms of story. Not a knock against them, but it's just the story is very point A to point B.
Yeah. With
a lot of really good jokes thrown in and some really cool action set pieces that are just mixed about.
Okay.
And it's sort of a dying breed of movie where you get an R-rated mid to moderate budget, mid to like high budget action comedy.
Yeah.
Like, especially like I said, R-rated. Like there was probably some temptation at another studio to make this as a PG-13 movie. No, this is R-rated, no question.
Yeah.
Good adult fun.
There you go. Mike Reyes from good adult fun. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. What's next on the movies this week?
So I will go with the film I liked the least this week. Unfortunately, I'm going to break some hearts here. Disney Pixar's Luca came out this week.
I don't even know anything about this.
Well, it was supposed to go to theaters, but then during, having to shift musical chairs in post-pandemic world, Disney decided to send it straight to Disney+.
Listen, if it's a turd, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it.
It's not a turd.
Okay.
It's just not, at least to me, it was not particularly exciting or interesting. It's basically the story of these two merkids that are, I think my wife cited them as like kelpies from mythology or selkies. I forget.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically they go onto the land and they can mimic the appearance of a human, but you get them wet and they turn back into mer people.
It's Splash
Luca,
for kids.
Kind of, yeah. Like Luca basically goes to the surface world and played by Jacob Tremblay. and he meets Alberto, played by Jack Dylan Grazer, who's another mer kid that doesn't have parents. He's lived on the land for forever, and they become best friends over the summer. They want to build a Vespa together, and they decide to go into the human town, and they meet a young girl who, wraps them up in this whole, it's basically like a slice of life movie where you follow these kids through a summer.
All right.
And there's like the comedic bragging villain, the concerned parents,
the threat of always getting splashed with water or something. Like, oh, that was close.
Yeah.
Okay. All
and
right.
a really funny cat that doesn't trust them. I love that cat.
All right. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. What's the final movie this week? Because I really want to get to the news.
Final movie that I saw this week, which I have absolutely fallen in love with and sort of ties into your audience over here on KGGO, is the Sparks Brothers. And it's Edgar Wright's documentary on Ron and Russell Male's group Sparks, and how from the 1970s through to today, they've sort of maintained their careers by being your favorite band's favorite band. And they just show like all of the different changes they made in their career, the highs and lows. And I had never heard of Sparks until I had heard, I read some report, or I think I had heard something like, oh yeah, Edgar Wright's doing this documentary on Sparks. And it's like, okay, I have no clue what that is, but I would certainly be interested to see what he would want to do a documentary on. Then I saw the trailer and started hearing the music, and it's like, oh wow, this jumped up my list. It's like, I can't wait to see this.
Oh,
and
wow,
after seeing it, it did not disappoint. It is, what it sort of reminds me of is Peter Jackson jumping into documentaries, because he did the World War I movie, They Shall Not Grow Old, and now he's got a Beatles documentary series coming. And I really like when creative narrative filmmakers jump into documentaries that they are clearly passionate about, because Edgar Wright is a huge fan of art. And it shows in the approach. Like, he takes a documentary and he'll do things like he'll have dramatizations of moments in their lives where it's still photographed on like animated paper bodies.
Okay.
And other really neat tricks that he has up his sleeve, as well as just showing off a bunch of documentary footage. He has an amazing list of people that he interviews for this. Yeah, just if you're just a music fan, or if you're just an Edgar Wright fan, definitely see the Sparks Brothers. But if you are a Sparks fan, then you're probably already sold. Just absolute pick of the week. Go see it in the theater. It's going to be in there. And just prepare to fall in love.
Awesome. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line right now. As we make our way through the actual movie reviews, we're going to hit on movie news real quick. I do want to wrap up with the Picard stuff. What would you rather start with, The Matrix or the Black Widow news from this week?
All right, we'll go very quick with Black Widow stuff. The first reactions to Black Widow have jumped up onto the internet. The review embargo is still up, but critics are starting to tweet, and from what I'm seeing, people, the critics that have seen it, are really enjoying it. Now, keep in mind, this is just the first wave. This might be sort of a more targeted.
This is the hand-picked Disney people, right?
The people that are doing the junket.
Yeah. These are the people that are like, they have to say it's good.
They don't have to say it's good. No one ever has to say a movie is good.
Yeah, but
a lot of the social media reactions.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you're going to one of these junkets, you're not going to risk being able to go see more Disney stuff or get blacklisted by Disney to say, oh, this is a turd.
Honestly, they will not blacklist you. And in any case, I've seen a lot of really good reactions. But again, as you're sort of pointing to, there's this sort of prevailing here, like some movies like Batman versus Superman had a huge first reaction wave of like positivity. And then slowly but surely that kind of came down to earth. So we won't really know until towards getting closer to the release of Black Widow. But so far it's, yay, home run for Marvel. Marvel movies are back, baby. And I'm still sitting here thinking I kind of just want you guys to take a break.
Looking at it from my point of view and looking at the trailers and everything, when I see a movie like this, it looks like a cool action movie. It looks like they kind of went the Bourne Identity route with some of the action and some of the sequences and that sort of thing, but just wrapped it in a Marvel movie. I love Black Widow. I love ScarJo in the part. I love all of that. I love some of the actors that are involved in it. My worry is I know what's going to happen. It's in between two movies, and I know she lives.
But
I get that there's you're going to see the story and, why she is the way she is and blah, 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 blah. It's like, yeah, but I know she lives. I know she goes on to, throw herself off a rock in Endgame.
All I'm going to say is, even being sort of jaded with the Marvel thing and kind of wanting a break from it, Black Widow is one of the things I'm more inclined to want to go see because it's a spy movie. I think people know that I love spy movies.
Yeah.
And on top of that, David Harbour and Rachel Weisz. Harbour and Rachel Weisz are two people I love so much. And to see them together, and then Florence Pugh and Scarlett Johansson there with them, it's like, I will watch this movie for its cast and its concept alone.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me. Okay, so we're hearing good things about Black Widow. Could it be just the first wave? Who knows? We'll just have to see what. I think it looks like it has the makings of some cool movies, but when the prequel happened, it's like, listen, I know that kid's going to become Darth Vader,
Yeah, but you can still tell a really good prequel story.
Yeah.
What's going to happen. And if you tell it the right way, people forget. Look at X-Men First Class.
Yeah. Okay, on the other side of things, The Matrix, what does it have a name now? Is that what the news is? Or you sent me a couple things about this week.
Okay, so give me a moment here.
It was like you were sitting the kids out. Okay, here's the story.
Okay, so picture this.
All right.
I'm on the internet yesterday as a JQ Johnny Public. Okay, so I'll cut this. I saw that not only does The Matrix 4 apparently have a title, the first supposed reaction to the film has been put on the internet. It's a Twitter user by the name of David Manning, which right there is sort of a red flag one for me because David Manning was the name of the infamous movie critic that Sony created in the early 2000s that they basically gave raves to their movies with.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to protect their identity. So this source is saying that the movie is called The Matrix Resurrections.
Okay. That makes sense.
Might track because, it makes sense because not only does it fit the title scheme of the Matrix movies, our word in the title, but there was a report a couple months ago where a makeup artist on the film supposedly posted a photo on Instagram of their wrap gift, and it said Matrix Resurrections on it.
Yeah, I remember that. So,
and that's also what kind of makes me weary about this because that's a title that's already out there. It's easy enough to just say, "Hey, that's the name of the movie. It was already out there."
You know what? I'm more interested in the part the title movie. The only title of a movie I ever thought needed to be something was Avengers Endgame. That's the only one I ever cared about. If they come out and they call Matrix Resolutions or Resurrections, I'm not overly worried about that. I mean, it may give away a little bit, but it is what it is. Let's face it, the Matrix story is probably about the one in some way. So
the casting gave it away because the moment they announced that Keanu Reeves and Carrie-Anne Moss were even going to be in the movie, it already says, I guess there was no way they were going to save that for the trailer.
Yeah.
And in a sense, they probably couldn't because you have a crowd watching that movie film. The moment either of them show up on set, it's game over.
Yep. So
it's just this really weird calculus you have to play where it's like, how much do we spoil and what do we keep as a surprise? But anyway.
Well, that's the other thing about that kind of stuff. Sometimes, if you've got a movie that you don't know if it's going to be what the reaction's going to be, if you all of a sudden give away, that one big piece, it's like, okay, I want to see Keanu Reeves in this. I want to see him back. Or I'm not saying you spoil the surprise, but you let people in on it, It is a fine line.
Yeah.
So.
Because especially when you watch a trailer, you go see the movie, and then you walk out of the movie and think, okay, I can tell why they released that, why that was Borat.
Yeah.
When the whole Giuliani thing broke about Borat, so many people are like, why would you throw that in? Why would you let that out the day before?
Yeah.
And then the movie goes and has a bigger surprise at the end. That's obviously why they had to do it because that joke would not have landed if the Giuliani thing was the surprise.
Yeah. All right. So basically, from the article you sent me and what you've told me, it sounded like, and I think this is actually kind of close to the quote, but it's like Matrix. If you're a fan of the series, you're going to love it.
Well, from what I heard is basically it's going to be a mixed crowd, and the people who love the movie will really love it.
Yeah.
And the fact, basically, they said weird, meta, engrossing, surprisingly funny, and ambitious to a fault. That's basically what the tweet reaction said. And they also said, in terms of Lana Wachowski's previous work, this is more of a Cloud Atlas than a Jupiter Ascending, which I love both of those movies. I don't care what people say. I don't care what my wife says. The barking gun is not a deal breaker.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Either way, I'm excited to see them. I liked the Matrix series. I don't care what people say. I liked Reloaded. I liked Revolution. Was it Revolution? Yeah, it was Revolution. Oh. I liked them.
Yep, right there.
I liked the Animatrix. I think they tried to tell a deep story, and for the people that at the end, that were like, oh, that's all. It's like, well, how did you expect that movie to end up? Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah. Also, Second Renaissance is probably one of the best Matrix stories ever told because it is the example of a prequel that gives you the information you need and you want, but it doesn't ruin it by demystifying. Like it's just very simply what you need, and it always watch that. Just that slow decline of everything.
You know what part really made me uncomfortable was when they're fighting the machines and they're in the mech warrior suits and they like tear it open and they grab that guy and yank him out and his arms and legs stay in the mech.
Yeah. Like real disturbing anime stuff. And it's just, you know what? Not enough respect is given to that movie because it's not in the 4K trilogy. Like you just get the movies, you don't get the Animatrix. Or
the one where they have people like plugged in and they're like mapping the brain patterns and like making one person cry and then happy and back and forth. Yeah, that stuff, it's like, you know what? We keep messing around with AI and this is what's going to happen. So
yeah, it's that disturbing tale that could happen if we're not careful.
Exactly. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com joining me on the line. We're going to wrap things up and hopefully... I could talk about this all day, but I know we're running long in the tooth here. Picard Day was the other day. It was on Wednesday. It's a made-up holiday within the Star Trek universe where on the Starship Enterprise, the Enterprise D at least, when they had kids on it, a military vessel, which was weird, but there was Captain Picard Day. That's a tale for another time. Anyways. Much like First Contact Day, Star Trek is trying to make their own holidays and make them, mean something in the outside world. And for Picard Day, we got our very first look. Well, not our very first look, but our first actual look at season 2 of Picard, and it was amazing. For those of you who haven't seen it and you're not a Trekkie, you're not going to get anything we're going to talk about here for the next couple minutes. But so I'm a huge Trekkie, so I want to get a couple thoughts out there and see what you think. Okay.
Oh, I'm ready. I've been ready. I sent you the link to this, and you're like, I saw.
I know. I was so excited. But, okay, so it's going to have to do with time travel. It's going to have to do with Q. There's a couple, things floating out there from our first look at it and this. Time travel, the timeline being messed up. Last night I was thinking about it, I'm like, God, I hope this isn't exactly like Back to the Future 2. Although I wouldn't hate it, I would still like it, but part of me thinks it's leaning kind of Back to the Future 2, Yesterday's Enterprise, where something happens in the past, it changes something. And you know what? One of the things I thought of that might be one of the changes?
What?
Picard still had, like, in part of it, they show him in kind of a Starfleet-esque uniform with a Starfleet Delta on it,
Yeah, that was a new looking uniform.
What my thought about this is, one, I don't think he's an android anymore, because if it's an alternate timeline, then he's probably didn't end up in the android body like he did at the end of season 1 of Picard. But my other thought about this is Picard has never been a guy that's gone after power, okay?
Yeah.
He's never been the guy, like, he's done what's right. He's given up power. He's, he's done his job and stuff. What if, and there's a thing, there's a line in there that John Delancey, there's a line from Q that he says, this is the end of the path, road of paths not taken, or something equivalent to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if at some point Picard got ambitious and started taking over, like accumulating power within Starfleet?
That does kind of make sense, because Q has always loved to screw with Picard to the point where he shows him like there's the whole episode where he shows him what his life would be like without his, artificial heart.
Yeah.
Like if he hadn't gotten in that bar fight. And that could be, like, I'm wondering if that's just one thing that's going to happen in this season. And it's just like, this is the thing they're teasing us with, and it may not be the whole season.
Yeah. Arc. Well, that's the other part. That's the other part about it. If you think about this, what happened? Because if it's dealing with time travel and the reality is different, something happened in the past. I think we can make that assumption, right?
I mean, look at the 4 key words that were released with this trailer. Time is broken.
So you have to go back far enough that Seven never got that she never went to the Delta Quadrant with her folks in Voyager. Okay. So it's a ways back. There's the time travel ideas. There's the mirror universe kind of feeling with some of the, darker colors and all that. I don't think it's mirror universe, but something happened, something changed, and Q is giving Picard a chance to deal with it. That pretty much sum it up?
Yeah. If it's not just a whole fabrication of cues to show him an alternate timeline, just to screw with him.
There was an idea. I was watching a show, a YouTube series. They were talking about episodes that were almost really, really different. And I want to say it was Tapestry, the one you were talking about, where Q shows him, his life and all that. It was supposed to be Star Trek's Christmas Carol. Part of me is wondering, is this going to be like a Christmas Carol-esque thing where it's like, boy, if I would have just done this, what would have happened? And then Q shows up to show him what would have happened.
Which is really funny considering Jean-Luc has already had a moment like that in Star Trek Generations where he goes into the Nexus.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think it's going to have a heavy toll, or it's going to lean towards yesterday's Enterprise, towards like a Back to the Future 2. And you're seeing what happens when something happens in the past and it changes stuff to this point. It looks great, and John Delancey as Q. Mon Capitan, how I've missed you.
I am always a sucker for when time travel is involved with Star Trek.
Yeah.
But to have John Delancey finally come back after wanting them to make a Q movie at some point, you would think there would have at least been one Q movie, but then again, you think there would have been a Space Nine movie or a Star Trek Voyager movie, and we saw how that turned out.
I think they should have done a Q movie because, and the reason I'll give it to why I wanted to see Q on the big screen. I wanted to see
those sorts of powers.
Yeah, well, it was that, but go back to First Contact where they showed the holodeck and they, did a live location of that old like bar and speakeasy type thing for the Dixon Hill thing.
Yeah.
And you saw how awesome, a holodeck could be. Now in this, in this way, it's like show how awesome Q is. So
exactly. I mean, if anything, that is basically the core of what makes Star Trek movies work when they work the best. You look at Wrath of Khan, which was supposed to be a TV movie, but that was such a shit kicker that it had to be on a big screen.
Yeah.
And then you look at stuff like like you said, First Contact or Undiscovered Country. This was stuff that the TV show was always dancing around.
Yeah.
But then when you gave it the right budget and manpower, it became something just
yeah, well, you look at
awe-inspiring.
So, anyways.
Wow.
Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. Picard, I think we're both excited for it.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
We don't have Star Trek movies to look forward to, sadly, so this is what we've got.
There you go. All right. That's going to do it for this week. Mike Reyes from Cinemablend.com. You can find him on social media at Mr. Controversy 83. We'll put the links to the podcast up at the website, and we'll see you next week, Mike.
See you then.